House Rent Allowance, understanding Section 1013A of the Income Tax Act. Welcome to Understand House Rent Allowance and Section 1013A of the Income Tax Act. In this video, we will unravel the intricacies of tax exemption on house rent allowance and provide a clear understanding of the rules and regulations that govern it. Let's get started. Section 1013A of the Income Tax Act in India is specifically dedicated to the tax exemption on house rent allowance. It is essential for salaried individuals who receive house rent allowance as a part of their salary package. Applicability of Section 1013A. This section applies to salaried individuals or employees who receive house rent allowance from their employers. If you do not receive house rent allowance as a part of your salary, or if you are not a salaried employee, this section does not apply to you. Tax exemption conditions. Now let's discuss the conditions to qualify for tax exemption on house rent allowance. There are specific eligibility criteria that both the employee and the rented accommodation must meet. Here they are. 1. The employee must be living in a rented accommodation. 2. House rent allowance should be a part of the employee's salary package. 3. The actual rent paid should exceed 10% of the salary, including basic salary and dearness allowance, or 50% of the salary if the employee lives in a metro city. The higher of these two amounts is considered for calculating the exemption. Calculating house rent allowance exemption. The calculation of house rent allowance exemption is based on three amounts, and the least of these three is considered for exemption. Let's understand the calculation method. 1. The actual house rent allowance received by the employee. 2. Rent paid minus 10% of the salary, or 50% of the salary in case of metro cities. 3.40% of the salary, 50% in the case of metro cities. Understanding metro cities. As per the Income Tax Act, the term metro city refers to Mumbai, Kolkata, Delhi, or Chennai. If you reside in any of these cities, the 50% rule for calculating the exemption will be applicable. Submission of rent receipts. To claim the house rent allowance exemption, the employee needs to submit rent receipts to their employer as proof of the rent paid. These receipts are essential to validate the claim and ensure a smooth taxation process. Taxable component of house rent allowance. Please note that the remaining portion of house rent allowance that is not exempted will be considered as a part of the taxable income of the individual. Therefore, it will be subject to regular income tax as per the applicable tax slab.